Welcome back to Currently Right Now, Wife, Mom, Me. This is your host, Ariane Mayweather, and today, this episode, June 18th, oh shit, I don't know, my husband packed there, June 18th, June 18th, I almost said my year of birth. What is happening? It is early, June 18th, 2025. I am currently driving my husband's car. I'm following behind him in the U-Haul. We are leaving Ozark, Alabama. And it is, this is the full circle. It has come complete. When my husband moved to Ozark, Alabama, I was with him. I drove with him from Fort Irwin. He came to my house and picked me up, and we moved all his stuff back to Alabama. He already had property here, several homes, and we moved him into the townhome that he stayed in since 2021, which is wild, which is when he retired. So here we are now. I was his girlfriend when he moved in, and I am his wife, and we're moving him out. And this is wild because for a moment, I truly thought that Alabama, Ozark at least, was going to be my home. I thought it was big enough for me, the girls, and him, but he insisted it was not. He insisted that 2,000 plus square feet was not enough for himself, a wife, and 3 daughters, which is wild to me. But, it is what it is. So, he did only in true kin fashion, which is, I cannot hear the sound of a wife and daughters who are loud and talk at a volume 10, even when just saying simple things. So, we're moving to Texas, and it is quite interesting, I will say, this journey that we've been on. So, my husband and I met in 2020, and I often talk about that story. We met January 20th, 2020, on a Monday. So I have been back in the game dating since I had after getting a divorce. I got a divorce from my ex-husband 2015, March 15th, 2015, the divorce was final. I took a break off of dating after a year of that. So I started dating someone 2016, dated that person for a year, didn't work out, which is fine. It's cool. God is good. I'm glad it didn't work out because I'm with the person I'm with now, my husband. And I took a break. Shout out to my sister-in-law, Danielle, who encouraged me to take a break. Now, and what she meant by take a break, it was like, you got to reset, refocus. And I'm glad I did that because I say this often. I was done with the marriage. I was over it. I was happy to be divorced. My children were mourning the marriage still. And they needed me. And they needed all my undivided attention. And I'm glad I did that because I began to really focus on my relationship with God and repair that and get back. And how can I say, you hear people often say, oh, I found Jesus. So it's not so much that I found Jesus. God is within me. He walks with me every day. And a true kingdom citizen, a true believer understands and knows that. So it's kind of like you tap into what's already there. So I got my relationship with God and I've rebuilt it, made it stronger, the foundation stronger than ever. And, I focused on my girls and them and their mental and emotional well-being and reestablish those relationships because I always say this. I've always wanted to cultivate a relationship with my daughters so that when they are grown women, they will want to spend time with me. Because, realistically, when you think about it, under the age of 18, well, let's even be real. When your kids when they're preteens and younger, they love you. They want to be with you. They want to spend all their time with you. Once those kids hit age 13 and up. So once they're like 8th grade and, they embark on high school, and depending on their life and what they're doing, they definitely, they only want to spend time with their friends, and they have activities and stuff. And you become the can you pick me up and take me here and give me money parent. And it's like they become real leeches. If you thought they were a leech when they were a baby, if those listening, if you only have babies and you haven't crossed over into a teen world and preteen world, oh, God bless you. Enjoy those years. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed every year. I love being a mom. That I feel like truly being a wife and a mother is why God put me here, because he knew I was gonna do that job well. But those kids, they don't really care about you, and not for nothing. It's just part of being a teenager. They care about themselves and their friends. They're establishing that part. And as a parent, you understand that. I always said, well, I want to cultivate the relationship with them. So when they turn 18, 19, and 20 and they're young adults and they're out there living their life and establishing who they are as young women, I truly want them to always think about like, oh, if we don't live in the same state, I want them to always say, oh, I want to go see my mom for Christmas, or I want to see my mom for Thanksgiving, or, I've been so busy. Let me take my mom out to lunch, or like Angel, she calls every week. And when she doesn't, she's very clear, like, hey, I'm studying, I'm busy, life's lifing. And I totally get it and understand that. And I do my best to not get offended, because she is a young woman and she is living life, and we're not in the same state, not for long, because starting tomorrow, I will be a Texas resident and I will be with her, but we'll be 2 hours away. So yeah, I said that I wanted to cultivate that. That has always been my dream, my goal. And I don't want them to want to have or spend time with me or have a relationship with me out of duty, and they feel like they have to. I want them to want to. So I did that. I took some time, did that with the girls, and we just grew closer, I truly feel. And I had to iron out a lot of wrinkles, of some trauma, that I did to them while being married. And by trauma, I mean, they got one side of me. They got an unhealed, ugly version of a mom. And I thought, I loved them the best, but there were just some things where it's like, I didn't like certain things growing up. And, we had a lot of discussion about how they felt they were treated during that marriage, even as far as they weren't mistreated or anything, but just like the yelling and the things that are unnecessary when you're going through a traumatic experience in a dysfunctional relationship. So we got a lot of that squared away. We did a lot of therapy. I did therapy whilst married to the first marriage. I did a lot of therapy after, and I love therapy. Now here's the deal with therapy, and I hope anybody listening to this understands. It's not forever. And I think the biggest misconception about therapy is it's like a magic eraser. It doesn't erase things. I think people that's the fear, like, well, it's not going to, get rid of my memories or stop what happened. No, you're right. It's not. It's not a magic eraser. The purpose of therapy is it gives you tools, and it helps you figure out the root of the problem, maybe why you've allowed certain relationships to take place, why you responded the way that you did with said relationships, and now why you're here, where you're at now. So the tools you need. So when you come across a kind of the same situation, you now have the tools to handle that, and so that you can be the best version of you. And you know that you're truly healed when you come across a similar scenario that had you the way it did. So I needed that, and I'm so grateful and thankful. And even with therapy, and I know a lot of people say, well, I can't afford it, etc. I don't have insurance. There are a lot of great self-help books out there. And I recommend you, even if you don't like reading like that, get Audible. Get Audible. Pay the, a lot of them have the $3, $4, $5 subscriptions a month or whatever. Do that. Once you get the book, you have it for life, as long as you have the Audible. And listen to the self-help books. You will thank yourself later. And so anywho, did the therapy, did all that. And, probably mid 2019, I was ready to date again. So I did a lot of dating. And dating, not effing, not sexual intercourse, actual dating. I kept my legs closed, and I was adamant about that because, one thing, ladies, and I will say this, especially to the girls, you know what? It doesn't matter the age range. It just is what it is. As women, our coochies and our hearts are attached. We are women, and we can think, we can move like men. And my father used to say this to me all the time: Pumpkin, you can't do what men can do. Like, you're not built that way. That's not how God invented you. And it is true. And a lot of us maybe think we can, be with who we want to be with and do that and stuff. And then you find yourself in a toxic twirl, or attached to somebody who really don't give a damn about you because you've opened up your legs to them. So I said, okay, on this journey, I'm not gonna behave in ways that don't serve me or my children. So I gotta move differently so that I can get the desired outcome. What is the desired outcome? It is marriage. So I think that the best thing for a lot of women is, depending on who you are and what it is you're looking for. Everybody don't want marriage, cool. But a lot of people still value and want relationships. And so what is it that you need? What are your core needs? My core needs were, I needed a man. I needed a God-fearing man. I needed a man who definitely was about his business. I needed a strong man. I needed an alpha man. I needed someone who knew exactly who he was and, was driven, who was ambitious, who wanted more out of life and was loving, was a family man, who definitely wanted to lead a family. And as I'm driving, I can't really think of everything, but so those, I knew what I needed. I needed somebody loving. I needed somebody attentive. I told my husband when I met him, and this is part of the letter I wrote to God. And, once I get a moment, I'll read that letter. Yeah, I knew I had core needs. And I told my husband, and the letter I wrote to God was, I want a husband who only has eyes for me. I want a husband that when I walk into the room or walk into his life, it's like baby angels delivered me in, like, oh, like, like just like wind blowing on my hair and face, like this gold emblem around me. Like, every time this man sees me, even when he's mad at me, he's like, damn, that's not, like, I love this woman, and that he never loses that for me. And he has to be faithful, and he has to be loyal, and he has to be family first, and that, he doesn't succumb easily to outside influences, and that he leans and trusts on God. So I wrote that letter, and I meant it. And I also asked for a man that was submissive to God, but also would be understanding enough to come to me. So maybe, hey, I have an idea, I have a plan, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And you tell me about it, not because you're looking for my approval, but that you run things by me, because you know what? Two heads are better than one, and it just is what it is. And I will say, it was funny because after meeting my husband and during the course of our relationship, he would often ask me my thoughts and my opinions on things. And I just would answer what I thought. I wasn't necessarily thinking about what I wrote down, but it's so funny because everything I wrote in that letter came to fruition. I love it when a prayer is realized in any and everything that you do. So yeah, so anywho, I dated, and obviously those people aren't with us today, thank God, because I got the person I'm truly with. Now, I dated online, and I know a lot of people have reservations about that, and I have a niece-in-law, Brittany, that I'm really close with, and she would go, why do you date online? Like, I feel like you can meet somebody in person. I'm like, Brittany, where? On the bus when I'm headed downtown? At the gas station, at the grocery store? Nobody's approaching me. And I said, I'm working on not having a resting bitch face. I did my best to smile. And now certain people would approach me and I'd be like, fuck no. But there's a reel going around right now, and it says it's so funny because when I saw the reel, I literally was like, that was my life. I thought when I left the house, and it was like who the people I want to meet and think I'm going to meet, and it like flashes like all these celebrity guys or whatever, obviously, that you're not going to meet. And then it goes who I actually meet, and it's like these older gentlemen that is like, no move. I would never even my name is no, absolutely not. So she would go, I just feel like everybody online is weird. And I said, Brittany, are you calling me weird? And she go, no, I know you're not weird. And I said, okay, well, you have to realize those same people who you think I'm going to meet in person, they are online. So the people at your grocery store, the people at the gas station, the gentleman you pass by when you're headed to work, those are the men that are online. So, I mean, if that's the case, everybody's weird, and I remember being in the 90s when, the internet came about, and you had AOL and you had the chat rooms and stuff, and you would hear these stories and people would be like, oh my gosh, you met him on the internet. Yeah, whatever. And you hear some of those people are together still to this day. Some of those people are not. And, it just is what it is. So, but I looked at it from a positive. Listen, it took me a long time to build this optimism. And I mean, this is years in the making. But I looked at it from a perspective of the best thing about online dating is that I get to meet people I would not necessarily meet, whether we'd be in the same state or not. So, okay, I'm dating people and doing this whole thing. So I had a friend once upon a time, and she told me, she was like, look, you need to do like a speed date situation. And I was like, how would I even set that up? She goes, they don't know that you're on a speed date. She was like, everybody you're talking to, you set up dates in a Saturday, preferably where you could get a bunch of dates in, and she was like, that way it's a filtering system. So I listened to her, and on a Saturday, I set up like 5 or 6 dates from like 11 a.m. to like 10 o'clock at night. Now, here was my mistake. If you're going to do this, if you are going to embark on this, they got to be quality people that, so if you're running a roster, and this is for the women who want to be married or want to find serious long-term relationships. If you just eating, doing your best to get free meals, get the fuck off of here. This is not for you. This is for the women who want marriage and want serious long-term relationships. Okay. She was like, oh, okay. So I set it up. At 11. Here's my mistake. I ate a full meal with one of those gentlemen, and I was done I was full for the rest of the day. And so the later on, and I don't care what anybody says, men who are genuinely interested in you, they want to buy you dinner. I go, I meet, I chat, and so we're chatting. So that's one day down, boom, done. On to the next. One day down, boom, done. So I'm on the third date. I'm full as a tick. And at that point, my eating habits had changed dramatically. So I'm like, oh, I'll just get a little fry. I'll get a little salad. And I'm like nibbling. And they're like, you don't want more food? And men who like you, they want to feed you. They just do. And so I was like, no, I'm good. Let's just chat. And so, the day goes on and I'm talking to people, really interesting people, but thankfully none of those people are here today. I will say out of that group, I filtered out one that I continued chatting and texting with, but we never seen each other again. I was like, no. So I thought to myself, after that took place, like a couple of weeks after, I said, what was about that didn't work? Because I didn't find anybody of quality and sustenance. It was at that moment where I said, you know what? No more food dates. I don't want to do that anymore because it's a waste of time. I don't even eat like that. I mean, at this point, I was strong, hardcore on my juicing daily, and I was trying to maintain my weight loss. So I said, okay, how do I get around this hurdle? Because my goal is to vet effectively a future husband. So I said, F that. I'm just going to do coffee dates. And ladies, hear me out. I know a lot of you are like, well, if he can't afford a meal, you birds just want to eat for free. Because my thing is, at the end of the day, what is your true goal? Is it to get a free meal? Or, is it to meet someone? So I started doing coffee dates. The coffee bean, Starbucks, wherever. And the way I looked at it was, you can meet someone there during the day, 6 p.m., whatever. And that was back in the day when Starbucks used to stay. I remember when Starbucks used to stay open until midnight, depending on the city you're in. So I wouldn't meet anybody past like 8 p.m. But so I would go, random Thursday at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., Saturday, 2, whatever, sit and chat with the person. One, you can come in with a representative, but everybody isn't geeked up. Like, you're not showboating. Most people are coming in in, workout clothes or whatever have you. And you hear women say stuff like, I want to get dressed up. Get dressed up, babe. Wear your cutest of dresses. Wear your cute jeans and a top and heels. Do what you do. Now, if you don't like coffee, because then I hear this too, I don't like coffee. Don't drink coffee. They have a plethora of drinks at Starbucks. They have food. Some Starbucks have ice cream. If you don't like none of that, all right, straight. Go to Baskin Robbins. Go to Cold Stone. Go to the Dairy Queen. Go wherever it is that you need to go. So, because the goal and purpose is for you to talk and have a conversation with this individual, that it can lead into a date. So I began meeting people at Starbucks, your local coffee shop, whatever, and just chatting with them because I wanted to understand them. And the beauty about that is, for $5 less, let's keep it a buck. These men are not only dating you, they're talking to other bitches. Like, let's be 100. Not all of them, but the majority. If these men are good looking and they are dating women and they want the same thing, they are dating more than you. So this man is going to be definitely appreciative of you if you offer the Starbucks date, or if you offer the ice cream, or if you offer, hey, let's meet at a park and let's sit and chat and I'll bring you a cupcake, whatever. Now, again, I am old school. I believe whoever asked for the date or coffee meet and greet, I believe they should set it up. If you ask, you pay. It just is what it is. But a true gentleman, if he's like, I'll buy your Starbucks, it's cool. Because you do want to set the tone if you are old school and you don't want to be paying for nothing, because I ain't paying for nobody's food. And I do that voice because, I don't know, but whatever. Anywho, so I'm doing that. It's going, not really working out, not really meeting anybody. So, I'm funneling through people, and then there's a month or so where I'm not chatting with anybody. And then, you get the new good round of people on the dating apps or whatever. Now, this whole time I'm not meeting anybody in person still. I'm still walking. I'm making sure I'm smiling to people, being open, inviting. Nobody gives a damn. Nobody's coming up to me. The people who are, I don't want them. Please get away from me with this, sir. Go away. And not for nothing. It just is what it is. Like, I'm not interested. I wouldn't be rude, though, I will be, oh, nice to meet you. I will lie and say I had a man. Oh, does your man care if you have friends? You know he does. And I mean, the invisible man does care. Get out of my face. I'm trying to be so nice to you in the most respectful way. Anywho, we have Christmas, and this is where I've read several books at this point. So we are 2019. It is December. I've read The Secret. Great book. It helped me really shift my thinking and really be, listen, where energy goes, where attention flows, energy goes. So it helped me kind of really be focused on what it was that I want. And, you know, we hear this thing where it's like, oh, don't settle for less, et cetera, et cetera. I wasn't settling. I just knew what I wanted. I wanted a good man, Savannah. And I asked for things when I wrote this letter to myself. I asked for certain men to make a certain obscene amount of money. And then upon meeting said people, you realize they don't have time for you. So you're like, ooh, that's not really what I want. I did want someone who I could spend time with and meet and hang out with. So that's not going to work. Back to the drawing board. So in December, it was probably right around New Year's, I wrote a letter to myself and God. And I got really, really keyed in on things that I wanted, attributes, characteristics, ethics of this man. I built this man from literally what he looked like, his smile. He had to be good looking. He had to be tall. And I'm 5'7". I wear heels, so you have that thing. I enjoy taller guys. Just is what it is. But at that point, I was like, I don't give a fuck if this motherfucker's 5'8". Like, I don't care anymore. I just, God send me a good, God-fearing man with a kind heart who is just, probably before I meet my husband, a week before I meet someone, we're chatting. It goes for a week. He's like, hey, this is a Saturday before I meet my husband. He's like, you want to hang out? And I'm like, let's meet at Starbucks or the Coffee Bean, whatever. It was Coffee Bean. We meet at Coffee Bean. Get there. I see him walk in first before I get in there. Walk up, say hello. We sit, we chat. It's about an hour goes by. It's funny in how God works, because I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this individual, and I was literally ready to I said to myself, F it. I'm tired of doing this. He seems like a good guy. He's good on paper. He has a kid already. He don't want to have no more kids. That's cool with me. He has a great job. Cool. He and I are on the same page about the things he wants. So as we're talking, I can tell when he's touching my hand. He's laughing at everything I said. Listen, I'm fucking funny. My kids don't think I'm funny, especially Ashanti. I am mother effing hilarious. I be knocking people out. I know I do. Anyways, he's laughing at my jokes, and I'm just going along to get along. At this time where I said to myself, because God is in me, I said, fuck it. I'm just going to settle. It is what it is. I promise y'all, that man took his hat off. He wore a hat. And when I think back to the pictures that he posted, I really couldn't tell what was happening underneath that hat. That man took that hat off. I don't have a problem with a bald guy. My husband's bald. No. His head was huge. And by huge, it was giving cone heads. If you are from under the 1995, you know this movie, The Coneheads. I said, what is happening, sir? Oh my goodness. And God was like, you see, you shallow little something. I said, oh no, But he put that hat back on. I said, and he will never see me again or hear from me after this. So we're walking out. And he goes, this was great. I don't even remember this guy's name. He goes, this was great. And I said, yeah. And he goes, yeah. He goes, we should do this. And I said, do what? And he was like, just continue being honest with one another. Like, I love that about you. And I said, oh. And he goes, yeah. And I said, no. And he said, and he's walking away, and he stopped mid in his tracks. He said, what? And I said, oh, you've never had anybody be this honest with you before in your face. And he looked perplexed. And I was like, I said, it was really nice meeting you. I pray you get home safely. And he said, yeah. And so we both get in our cars. I text him, and I said, it was nice meeting you. Thank you so very much for the few hours. Went on my way. Never spoke to that person again. That was Saturday. Saturday evening, I'm low-key having a bit of a meltdown. I'm like, F this. I don't want to date again. Like, what is happening or whatever. I was so tickled over the hat fishing. I couldn't believe it. And I guess this is the equating to how men feel about women or us when, if we wear a lot of makeup. And I don't wear a lot of makeup. I do concealer, but I don't wear makeup like that. Like, when I wake up, what you see is what you get. Hope you like it. I was just feeling away, and I was like, what is happening, God? Like, where's my husband? Like, what is going on? So this whole time, I'm whining and I'm crying to myself or whatever, and I'm looking on this dating app, and I'm swiping. Now, this one profile is popping up continuously. And I'm just like, fuck no, I'm not driving a fucking Barstow. Like, fuck that shit. Why would he be in Barstow? So immediately it clicks. I'm like, maybe he's in the military. I'm like, and I definitely don't want to deal with that shit. So, Sunday morning comes, profile pops up again. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, why does this? But it keeps saying he's 15 miles away. And I'm like, I don't know about this. So, I'm going through the day or whatever, getting ready for the week. And, we are full on in 2020 now. So at this point, I'm doing my own thing. I'm not checking into an office or anything like that. I am selling insurance. I'm doing notaries. I'm doing great. Life is good. This is pre-COVID. This is a few months before COVID. Okay. So I have a full on meltdown or whatever. And I hear God's voice. And I hear God say to me, and it's like 5 a.m. I'm getting up. I'm getting ready to head to the office. And it's MLK. So the girls didn't have school that day. So everybody's off. So I get up. I'm brushing my teeth. And I just remember hearing God's voice like, listen, chickadee. You keep having these crazy, like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to mess around and it's really going to be me and you. Jesus is going to be your man because you're worried about dumb stuff like location and things like that. Like, stop. So I had to come to Jesus moment. I opened my phone again. There's that profile. So I said, fuck it. I swiped right. Probably a few moments later, I get a message. Hey, how are you? And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, good, how are you? And he's like, I'm good. And so, we're chatting a little bit. And I wish I would have saved the messages, but I didn't. But so we're chatting a little bit. And I said, the chatting was going good. The messaging was going good. So I said to him, hey, when you have a moment, I would love to hear your voice. So I said, here's my number. Boom. Calls almost immediately. Now it's 6 a.m. And as you guys can hear now, because it is early for me, it is 3:10. So I've got this jazzy smoker's voice happening, and I don't even smoke. So he calls. I'm like, great. I said, I just want to make sure you didn't have, a soft female voice. And he starts laughing and definitely doesn't have this deep voice. And he's like, nah, no, not at all. So I'm like, cool, So he's like, what's your day look like? Da 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 da. So we talk, and I said, okay. I said, I'll text you. I'm going to head out to work. So we're texting. Get to my office in West Covina, and we're texting all throughout the day. So probably about like 4 p.m., I say to him, hey, he said, well, if you're not doing anything this weekend, I would like to get dinner with you. And I said, well, here's the deal. I'm fasting. I was doing my 40-day fast. Listen, when I tell you, I was like, I am going to meet Jesus. at the end of this 40-day fast. I fasted for this guy. I prayed for this guy. I said, I'm not stopping. Like, it is what it is. So he was like, if you are busy, if you're not busy, I want to get dinner with. I said, I'm fasting, so I can't. I said, maybe we could do something else. I said, but to be honest, I said, if you don't have anything to do this evening, because I knew the way his schedule was at that, because he told me, I said, I would love to get coffee if you're okay with that. And he was like, okay, well, what were you thinking? And I said, well, whatever's easier for you, because you're in Barstow. I said, so if you don't mind, I said, you shouldn't be having any traffic come down. So he's like, okay. So we agreed Victoria Gardens. So at this point, he didn't know all that was in Victoria Gardens was in Victoria Gardens. And so this man had been in Fort Irwin since 2019, summer 2019, and going to Vegas to go to the Cheesecake Factory. And I'm just like, you're crazy. You never thought south of the 15? He was like, no, what was the purpose and point? He was like, I hate California. So I'm like, whatever, man, cool. So, he was like, oh, you got Cheesecake Factory, you got this, that, da, 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 da. So, he goes, great, I'll meet you. What time? 7, cool. Get to the Starbucks. I ended up at the wrong Starbucks. Meanwhile, I gave the directions. He's at the right one. I'm not. So I meet him, walk in upon immediately. I'm like, look at this big ass country fed. I'm not going to say the word. I'm going to say man. And I was like, geez Louise. So he's big. Like, listen, they're just bigger and better in Texas. They just are. Anywho, so I walk up, I say hi or whatever, and he's like, why are you so tall? And I'm like, I got on heels. So I came from the office, so I did notaries that day. So I'm looking in office wear, workwear, ladies. So I still look presentable. I brushed my teeth before I went, brushed my hair. So I looked a little polished and kept, the day didn't run away. So he orders himself I always get this wrong, a raspberry, a strawberry, acai, whatever. He doesn't offer me nothing. It's cool, but I'm not even thinking about that. So we sit down, we're talking, and I'm like, so how was your day? Da 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 da. So we do the small talk, and he's sipping on that berry acai, not saying nothing. Now I understand, and I'm thinking to myself like, well, maybe he's nervous, whatever. So I get it. Cool. But now I'm tapped into that because he's not really responding. I'm asking questions where you should be responding. He's yes, no, whatever. He's giving 1 to 2 word answers. So I'm starting to get a little frustrated. And I'm looking at him like, why the fuck did you come meet me if you weren't going to talk? Like, what is your effing problem? So I'm like, nah. So, at one point I'm like, maybe this isn't it. It's cool though. Like, it's Starbucks. So I did what I came to do. Maybe he's not who it is. So I lean forward and I'm just like, I'm like, I gotta really try with this guy because he's so handsome. So I looked at him and I said, let me ask you a question. What made you join the Army? And so he's like, oh, so he's like, I was in high school, etc. This guy, when I graduated, he was like, when you go join the Army, you should come with me. He was like, and I thought, F it, why not? And at this moment, I didn't know his mom was a retired veteran. So I didn't know that. But he was like, I'm going to go. And I said, I said, do you have PTSD? And he was like, no. And I literally pointed to myself and I said, I do. And I started busting out laughing. And he almost choked on his drink. He leaned forward and he giggled a little bit. He goes, okay. And he said, I'm assuming that was from the marriage. I said, fuck yeah. And so he chuckled and he goes, let me ask you a question. And he literally points with his finger. He points down in a circle. He goes, what do you hope to gain by doing all this? And I said, all of what? He said, this, what we're doing right now. I said, a husband. And I said, I'm not a girlfriend. I'm a wife. I said, now, I don't know if you are said husband. I said, but I do like you. And I think you like me. So, and if you're not my husband and you don't want to see me after this, that's cool. And I appreciate you for coming out. And if you're not him, I'm not even mad at you. I said, but I'm not dating to just date. I'm looking for a husband. And so he was like, he goes, okay. He was like, I too want to get married. And I said, cool. And he said, well, let's do this. He goes, let's get to know one another. Let's figure it out. And let's see, where it takes us. He was like, clearly he didn't say catch a vibe, but he said, clearly things are going well. So for as you young kids, what do you guys say? He said, clearly we caught a vibe. It's good. We're vibing. Let's just see how it goes. So we closed Starbucks down, walked outside, and it was in Victoria Gardens on Main Street. So we sat in front of the Apple store, which was still open, and we sat on the bench and we chatted a little bit. And he told me his true disdain for California. And I'm like, whatever, man. And so, we talked a little bit more. So now, at that moment, I was like in lust, but I was also, he's going to be my husband. He didn't know that. But you know what? Sometimes when you are with men, you have to pray and you have to be so aligned with God. And oftentimes you got to show these guys, hey, I'm the woman for the job. Like, what? So that progressed really fast, because the next weekend we had a true date. He took me out. I didn't eat. We went to the movies. He bought the movies. I bought him popcorn, and I went to the 99 and I got him some Sour Punch straws. He was appreciative of that. We truly got to know one another. And I asked him on the first, I said, so what are we doing? And he was like, what do you mean? I said, what are we doing? And he said, we're talking. And I said, oh yeah? And immediately when he said that, first of all, well, I don't know what you're talking about. We talk every day. But what you mean we talking? Because I'm on some, we're not 15. You talk when you're 15. We're grown. So in my head, once he said we're talking, I was like, bitch, you are single. So still continue to be ready to mingle. I don't remember this part, but I said to him, okay, if somebody asks me for my number, are you okay if I give it to them? What do I tell them? And he said, no, I'm not. So tell them you got a man. So at that moment on, we were together. I don't remember that. He says he remembers that clearly, because he was like, I never would have thought in a million years you would have asked me that question. Like, and he said, and I didn't even think about it. And I guess, if I'm being honest, thinking about that statement. So I don't know where I left off. Anyways, my husband just called me. So, yeah, and I guess my purpose and reasoning for saying that was, you could talk to people, but if we're not dating and we're not exclusive, I'm single, babe. It just is what it is. I mean, obviously you're single until you get married, but my purpose for saying that was, I'm going to still entertain people. And I truly believe this. Don't let somebody you're quote-unquote talking to stop you from meeting your husband or your wife. Like, what are we doing? You're grown. I'm grown. I was 39. He was in his 40s. Like, I don't have time for games. So, it's cool, if you're not trying to, be in a serious situation. And I'm going to get right the fuck on. It is what it is. So, anywho, so he was like, nah, you got a man. So, which was great. So, again, that happened, and it happened quick, and we were inseparable, very much so, even though he was at Fort Irwin and I was here, we spoke daily. We tried to see each other. So at the time, I didn't know he was a helicopter pilot. It wasn't until, I will say, during that week of us talking before we went out, he kind of explained to me what it was, but I wasn't paying attention. And, he said, I retire next year. How do you feel about a long-distance dating situation? It won't be that long. And I was like, I'm okay with it as long as everybody is on the same page and behaving. Like, don't be saying we're together and you're, we're far away and you're living your best life. Like, don't do me like that, because I'm not going to do like that. He was like, no, that's not who I am. And he's proven and kept his word. And so as the course of the relationship went on, we truly, really understood one another. We talked about the things that we wanted, and we talked about the things that were important to us, and we talked about, being what marriage looked like, what it looked like to, go half on bills or what. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't go half on bills and et cetera. Listen, we're in a weird, loopy economy here. And unless your husband or your wife is making so much money, you kind of got to go half. And I grew up with parents who didn't necessarily go half, but my mother made more than my dad. But my dad paid the mortgage and my mother paid the utilities and, all the groceries and stuff, and harassed my dad for all his money. It was quite a scene. And I swore, I told my husband now, I said, I don't want to fight over money. Like, that's something I don't want to do. But I will say Ken has been a true man of his word every step of the way. He's been beyond, we've overcome some great hurdles that needed to happen. And, it's a really, and I'm going to have to take a minute and I thank the men out there that still date and do their best to find a good woman, because the dating pool now is quite interesting. Whereas you guys, men, like you guys, have to date these women who have these insane standards and wants and needs. And here it is. I'm just looking for a man who is faithful and loyal and keep his dick to himself. Like, they don't hit me, don't be arguing with me, laugh at my jokes because I'm effing hilarious, and that, and be kind and good and be good to my bros, and I'm gonna be good to your kids, etc. Like, let's just be cool. I had to overcome, I feel like, a lot of stereotypes. He's a black man, I'm a black woman. I do have kids, and so as Ken got to know me, and one of the things I saved today was I was married before, and I got the divorce, so I wasn't out here with 80 baby daddies or whatever. I think at this point now, if you're dating people, a lot of men don't have kids, but, most people have, one or two kids. Most people have one or two baby fathers or baby mothers. And I was very adamant that I didn't want to date more than what I had. So let me break that down. If I have two baby fathers, Angelique's dad separate, but my ex-husband raised her. It is what it is. The truth is, I have two baby fathers. Well, I have one baby father and an ex-husband. But anyway, two men fathered 4 children. 1 for one and 3 for the other. I did not want to. I said, if I meet a man, he can't have no more than 2 baby mothers. I have 2 baby fathers. He can have more than 2 baby mothers. That is the goal. It is the standard. It is what it is, because the audacity of me to say he can't have no kids or only have 1 and I've got 2. That doesn't even make sense. So I said he can't have more than 4 kids. Now, I didn't want to date anybody with 4 kids, because if I got 4, you got 4, that's 8. I was more or less like, I'll take the most 3. Now, the audacity of me with 4 kids, I'm thinking to myself, if he's got 2 kids or 2 baby mothers and he's got 4 kids, or however you divvy it up, I know what comes with that. I know how toxic us as women we can be. Men are pretty toxic too, but we take it to a whole new level, especially if that man has moved on and you still want to be with him. So, anywho, but would I have dated somebody with 4 kids? If Ken had 4 kids, would I have rejected him? Fuck no, because he was great on paper. Like, it just was what it was. But he had 2 kids, 2 baby mamas. It is what it is. So, and I was very much mindful of those relationships that he had with his mom, because I was like, let me see what I'm getting here. And as we talked and got to know one another, and he understood my background, I understood his, and where I came from, we overcame a lot. And he would say to me, you're not like other women. Now, I will say it's interesting, because him dating women predominantly who were in the military shifted his purpose, his thought process. So he'd only been introduced to one way. And I hate to say this, ladies who are in the military, this is what it is. I mean, my daughter's in the Air Force. And from talking with her and her boyfriend Curtis, they've explained to me that there's like levels to it. Like the Air Force and Navy, those women are a bit more feminine. And I'm not knocking any of you Army girls. I know now with the Army and Marines, they've allowed the ladies now to wear earrings, like studs in their ear and stuff, and that whole stuff or whatever. But it's kind of like the cop thing, the female cop. You see the female cop, she feels like she has to outperform her male counterparts because she's a woman. Meanwhile, if the guy lets you arrest him, it's because he let you arrest him because we're not as strong as men. Physically, just is what it is. Women, we're strong. But physically, if you are fucking 5'6" or shorter or whatever the case may be, and you arrest a dude and he's 5'7", 5'8", or even he's the same height as you, they're just stronger than us physically. He's letting you. So, anywho, enough about that. So, we overcame hurdles and understood a lot of stuff, and even with Aubrey, and I bring up Aubrey because I've heard so many step-parent, step-kid stories or whatever. Aubrey wasn't too bad, but she gave us a run for her money, unbeknownst to us, what my ex-husband was doing over in the background, trying to plant seeds of hate and nonsense against me and my kids. But you got to be quicker than that because it didn't work. So anywho, we dated. He met the girls. He met Angel first, and then he met Angel first in June. I had a birthday party for turning 40, and then he met the other girls later in September. Once we kind of established like this is what we're doing, because I told him, I said, my girls have never been around another man. I don't play that shit. My oldest, whose biological dad is different from my ex-husband, has only known my ex-husband. Her biological dad has, she knows him, but she don't know him like she knows my ex-husband. And my kids only know their dad. I'm not about to be traipsing a bunch of different men through my kids' faces. That's not fair to them. And so I told him, if I bring you around my kids and let you get to know them, we got to make sure this is what it is, because they only know their dad and they'll only know you. And that was a plus for me. So when I told him that, he really took that to heart, where he was like, oh, damn. So she's not like everybody else out here. She don't have 50-11 mofos running through her and her kids and all that other jazz. He met the girls in September. He took us to dinner. And at that point, Ashana and Ashanti have been chatting with Ken over the phone. Like, if I called, they'd be like, let me say hi to Ken, and get to know him or whatever. But it was great that Angel met him first, because she helped set the tone for it. And Angelique is the best big sister. She's the best leader of them. And once they saw that Angel liked him, everybody fell in line. It really was the true sense of the pecking order. Like, you do what the older sister does. And so, so he meets the girls, and then we start really establishing who we are as a modern family. And, so time goes on. We head into the new year at this point. He and I are together for a year. He gets ready to retire, and he asked me to, funny, we got into a bit of a tiff, and Ken does not raise his voice at all. He talks very calm, very low. He's never raised his voice at me. He is very stern and firm. He's like my dad. He reminds me so much of my dad. My dad would holler at my mom. That's what my mom had pushed into women. But my dad never really yelled at me. Or my brothers, for that matter. He would raise his voice a little bit, but he was very, when he got serious, he got serious. And Ken is the same way. He's the man of few words. When he gets serious, he's serious. And he talks in the same low tone, and just the tonality changes where it sounds serious. So we got into a bit of a tiff, and I made it right, and it was me. I misbehaved per usual because I'm a fucking brat. And I apologized, and I told him, but he said that. He was like, we needed that. He said, because you never know how people are until, you have a misunderstanding or a disagreement. And we've never had an argument, so, we've had misunderstanding. So he was like, we needed that to happen so we can correct it. And he goes, so what I'm going to do for you is I want you to drive back with me to Alabama, because at this point he had so many properties. And by so many, he had a handful. Then he was like, do you want to? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll drive back. He was like, and because you know how to be accountable and apologize, I'm going to take you and have the best Mexican food in Alabama you've ever had. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Nobody is, where's the good Mexican food in Alabama? He's like, I promise you. And I was like, how do you know? When have you had good Mexican food? Like, you hate California. I'm like, get out of here. So he's like, no, I'm not even joking. Okay, fast forward. Here comes the time. He retires. We're moving him back to Alabama. And it was great because I get on this road trip with him. We leave my house like 2 a.m. This guy, he loves to leave out 2 a.m. And we left the house at 2:30 this morning. We leave the house, go through Arizona. We take a pit stop, we rest. Okay. Drive through Arizona. I love him so much because I've been able to collect magnets from everywhere we've been. So we drive through New Mexico. Now, here, I'm going to say this. I love Western. And maybe because I'm an 80s baby and grew up with the parents that I have, because my parents were born in Texas. But my mom, my maternal grandfather, Leon, he always watched Westerns, and he was a true Texas man. And because my parents were raised out here in California and LA. But I love Westerns. And growing up, we watched my brother Darren is so funny because he would always watch The Rifleman. Like, if I got sick and had to stay at home over summer vacation, I grew up in a time where there was only one TV in the house. And you fighting over it, and 9 times out of 10, if my dad wasn't at home, my brothers won. And it was always football. And I know I'm steering off the conversation, so I apologize. But anywho, so I grew up watching Tombstone. I love the movie Tombstone. So we're driving through Arizona, and I'm like, oh my God, Tombstone, can we please stop? And he looks at me, Ken, and he's like, that's not on the itinerary. And I was like, but like, you don't have a job no more. Like, we technically don't have nowhere to be. And he's like, we're not stopping. And I'm like, he was like, all it is like dirt and like rundown buildings. And I'm like, I know that, but he was like, then stop. You're going to want to see the show. And I'm just like, I just want to stop at Tombstone. And I'm like, fine. So don't stop. We drive through, we get to, I can't even think of the name of the city. When we first get to Texas, I love the movie Sicario. So to see Juarez, Mexico. The mountain where it says Juarez. I mean, even talking about it now gives me chills because I'm like, damn, Mexico's right there. Listen, I am shocked at myself that I am 44 years old and never gone to Mexico because I've always wanted to go. And my brother Dondi used to always go to Mexico, and he'd always have these crazy stories. Spend the night, get up the next morning, we drive to Dallas, and we stay in Dallas, get up, drive. So now we're heading into Louisiana. Now, I didn't tell none of my family I was going in there because you tell anybody you're in Dallas and you don't call them and see them, they feel away. And I didn't want to upset anyone. Driving through Louisiana, I was like, listen, can we please stop and get some beignets? Please. And he's like, if you can find a Cafe Du Monde that's not in New Orleans, because I got this effing trailer, I will give you that because I didn't get Tombstone. And I Googled it, and I'm like, there is a Cafe Du Monde. It's outside of the first quarter, and get that. And I was like, and here's like a sports bar type of thing where we could get lunch, dinner. So go get food. I have the best. I think I got etouffee again. I love shrimp etouffee. I can make it from scratch. It's my jam. Go to Cafe Du Monde, get the coffee. We hop back on the road, and he was like, listen, we're not stopping from here. We're heading straight to Alabama. When we get to Alabama, we'll stay at a hotel, and then we'll go, we'll get the keys the next day to the house. I'm like, cool. Drive through there. We head into Mississippi, and that was quite an adventure, like driving through there. Oh my God, we drove on Lake Pontchartrain. I hate Lake Pontchartrain. Yeah, so we made it to Bama, and, it was nighttime. It was probably like 1 a.m. in the morning. We got to the room. We went to sleep, of course. And then the next day we woke up, checked the house, walked in, and it was nice. And, as I'm driving in, I'm thinking to myself, like, if this man proposes to me, this could potentially be my future home. Get there, we get the keys, we go in, and so he was like, what? He was like, let me take you and get some food. This is my first time having Waffle House. So I'm sitting in the car, I'm waiting for him to come back again. And the neighbors, Dave and Linda, but it's Linda this time. It's Linda, it's Lottie, and it's Leslie. Leslie was my husband's right next door neighbor. Lottie was the neighbor a house or two further down. And Linda and Dave lived directly across the street from Ken. And so they walk over, and I'm going to do my best because it's early to do the most pleasant Southern. I'm like, hi, and they're like, oh my goodness, how are you? We were wondering who bought the house. Are you our new neighbor? And I said, my boyfriend's Ken. I said, he just retired from the military. And they're like, wow, you love our soldiers? And they're like, I'm Linda. I live across right there. My husband David. This is Lottie, and this is Leslie. And Leslie's like, I'm going to be living right next to you. Lottie, she's like, I live down the street. We're the ladies of the neighborhood. And, so they were like, our neighbor right there, Mr. Whatever this gentleman's name was, he's an older gentleman. I guess he mows everybody's lawn. So he got stuck in the lawn, and Linda said she heard a faint voice in the background, which is what made her and everyone come outside, of an old man yelling, help, I'm stuck, help. So they rushed over to go find him. And, so the neighbor who mows everyone's backyard, which bugs me about certain neighborhoods in the South, especially Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, y'all don't have fences, and that is insane to me. But whatever. I'm sure you guys could have some real slick shit to say about California, but whatever. So the gentleman, the next door neighbor, he mows everybody's backyard. He sits on a mower like Forrest Gump and mows everyone's backyard. It is wild to me. You cannot buy neighbors like this. Like, these people are awesome. They introduce themselves. Ken comes outside, and I introduce Ken. I'm like, these are neighbors. And they're like, so nice to meet you. We didn't know who was going to buy the house. We're right across the street. So further after that, Ken living there and getting to know them, I mean, everybody's been great. Dave and Linda, older couple, have been so awesome in these past 3 years of my husband living there since 2021. Linda would bring food over. We kind of explain to him, he's studying, he's in school, this is what's happening, et cetera, et cetera. And, she's like, okay, I just want to make sure you're not dead. And he would go over, say hi to them, and take them cheesecakes. Ken would take them cheesecakes because Ken makes the absolute best cheesecake. Ashanti loses her mind. And, they would bring Ken food. She's like, I heard you studying, make sure you have something to eat. So Ken was like, oh, my God, Linda made this great casserole. It's really good. They check on him from time to time. She would text me, like when Ken would come see me. She would text me and be like, I just want to make sure he's okay. I haven't seen this time. Like, he's in California. So I had to tell Ken, like, hey, you got to let Dave and Linda know when you're gone, because you don't want anybody to pull up to your damn house with a U-Haul truck and it ain't you. For those of you who don't know Ken and know of him, Ken is very low-key, very private. Don't like his neighbors in his business. He don't want to talk to said neighbors. Dave and Linda have been real peaches, but I was saying about Ken, he's not that guy. Like, he don't want his neighbors in his business. But I tried to explain to him, like, you have to, when you live around people and stuff, you got to be cordial because anything could happen. Like, you need to, I'm not telling you to have Sunday dinner with these people or anybody for that matter, but, you got to get to know because they're going to be your saving grace. And so he'll listen to me, and that is one thing I do love about Ken. He will take heed to what I'm saying. It may take a day or two, but it'll marinate on his brain, and then he'll come back to me and he'll say, I was thinking about what you said, and you've got a point. From that perspective, he did. I exchanged numbers with Dave and Linda. Well, more so with Linda. I don't have Dave's number. So that, we could update them and stuff. And then, when Ken would come see me, I'd text like, hey, I don't know if Ken let y'all know, but he's in California, so, don't fret. And they're like, oh, yeah, he let us know on his way out. They would always tell Ken, if you need a ride to the airport, let us know. Don't worry about it. And he never took them up on their offer until now. But when I would come back to Alabama, they cooked dinner for us. Listen. And I'm going to say something super stereotypical, and I hate to say this, but I think as black people, we collectively feel like our Caucasian brothers and sisters can't cook, depending on where they're from. And, we've had some crazy TikToks and social media videos to, support said theory. So not for nothing, of course we're going in there, and we're like, all right. I'm curious how this is going to be. So Miss Linda cooked, she made this stuffed baked chicken, and then she did like this cream red Russian kelp, and I can't remember the other dish that she made, but it was phenomenal. And I'm going to go on record and say this. Maybe depending on the Southern woman or the Southern Caucasian woman. So if she's from the South, and depending on the area of South, because I feel like the Caucasian women who are probably realistically Cajun in Louisiana can probably cook. But when I tell you Linda cooked this stuffed baked chicken, and it was seasoned to taste, and they're older, so and I've noticed 40 plus has a different kind of seasoning on it now. If you are 40 plus and you hear me, you know what I'm talking about, like, especially because I do a lot of fasting and I do a lot of clean eating. When I do have seasoning, it is a little hot for me. But this woman, she seasoned this chicken just right, and it was baked to perfection, because you need to have it, and it is a really good green, especially if you do it raw. But anywho, so she cooked the hell out this meal, and we sat there and we had dinner with them. Listen, we made a friendship start, and it was a great meal. And from there, I've baked, stuffed, and mailed it, and Ken has walked it over to them. Of course, Ken with his cheesecakes and whatnot. But, we really have grown to get to know them and build a friendship. And yesterday, while leaving, yesterday morning, Ken saw Dave and Linda. He went over, he was like, I just want to let you guys know, I'm sure you guys realize, because they saw the first U-Haul truck a week or so ago. They knew he was leaving, and then so they saw it again yesterday, and he walked over and he said, I just want to let you guys know Ariana's on her way in. We're going to drive back, but we wanted to tell you guys bye. And he said, Miss Linda and Dave, started tearing up and crying. And he was like, oh, don't cry. They were like, no, it's just stuff. We took Dave and Linda some wine, and went over there, and they're so sweet. She's like, I made a little snack bag for y'all to have, something to just snack on while y'all are driving, keep y'all up. And, we sat for a good 30, 40 minutes and just chatted with them, and they were like, well, you guys don't be strangers. So I did tell them, I said, well, once we get settled, once we get to Texas and get settled, I'll send you guys the address and stuff. And, Dave was like, I know Ken's not going to ask, but please don't ever hesitate. If you guys need something, please reach out to us, and don't be strangers. So I definitely won't. I have every Mother's Day since I've known this lady texted her and told her Happy Mother's Day, text and said, Happy Father's Day to Mr. Dave, Happy Easter, Merry Christmas, sent her pictures of me and the girls and Ken and stuff. So we've truly built that relationship. And, it was sad yesterday. It was bittersweet yesterday. And she cried at the door. And, it just, we are in a time now where it's hard to find good people. And that is why you got to be kind to everybody. And, Mr. Dave said it yesterday. He was like, I did what I'm supposed to do as a Christian man. Love your neighbor. And upon meeting Ken and getting to know him, we could tell he was good people. And you certainly have been a joy. And we have, every time I visited Ken, every time I visited Kim, I let them walk over. Kim would text, say, hey, Ariana's here. I'd walk over, sit with Dave and Linda, for a good 45 minutes and just, pay my respects and be cool and cordial, but good people. And I only pray that, when we get to Texas, in the neighborhood we're going to be in, especially because we have daughters under, 18 and under, that we make some really good lasting relationships besides, my family members that are here in Dallas and besides Ken's family members that are here in Dallas. But I love a good neighbor. I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody knew each other. Like, I grew up with neighbors that I've never not known that you consider family. I'm grateful for those relationships, and they took good care of my husband when I was away. And, so we have come full circle. And last night, Ken and I laid on the air mattress where we laid the first night when we spent the night in the house before his bed and furniture got built. I just remember spending my 41st birthday in Alabama with Ken, and you could not tell me he was not going to propose to me. I wore the prettiest outfit. It was this white dress with pink fuchsia flowers on it. I was like, listen, I do not want to be proposed to on my birthday, but if this man is going to propose to me this weekend, I need to be ready, honey. I was optic ready, and he did not propose, and it was hilarious, and I was so nervous, and he kept taking me to Ashley Furniture, which has been a key indicator, because he's like, help me pick out a couch and stuff. But, I'm one of those people, I don't like to assume. Like, you got to be direct with me. And he was like, what do you think about this couch? I didn't know I was picking out my furniture for my future house. I had no idea. But he would be like, what do you think about this furniture? And I was like, it's cool for you. I was telling my nephew, Chucky, and my sister-in-law, Danielle, that, like, everything that's going into this house, I picked out, but I didn't know it was for me. And he would be like, what do you think about this dinette set? And I was like, it's cool. But it was on some, like, I wouldn't pick it for me. It's not really my jam. But if you like it, my nigga, it's cool. It's cool for you. Meanwhile, it's mine. It was for me. And I wish I would have been like, nah, show me what else they got. But he wanted to pick a big, and he did. So he got this big dinette set. So when we have people over for Sunday dinners, because I love cooking, and Ken knows that. We can entertain and stuff, and, he was thinking about Thanksgiving. But I'm more or less like, well, Thanksgiving, it's all of us sitting around, eating and stuff. Like, it's too many of us to really be sitting at a table and be traditional. Like, I have 4 older brothers, the rest of my older brother, Soul Michael, he's passed, but the 3 brothers that are alive are married, and they all have kids, and those kids have kids. Well, my brother Darren's kids have kids, and those kids have kids. So I have a large immediate family. So, Ken was thinking about all that and keeping all that in mind. Like, we're about to be hosting and entertaining, which is so funny to me because he is the quiet guy. I'm like, what is APM's have to settle down? Like, and my family is listen, we're the party yet. Like, we can't even help ourselves. So I didn't know I was picking out my own furniture for my future house. And so when time got closer and once Kim proposed to me, I'm forever grateful for him for that, because he had everything he did, he had me in mind. Even the house he picked out, it has a double oven. I don't want to bend over and get hot food and shit out of the oven, but my husband was forever kind and gracious, and everything I prayed for, he definitely came in clutch, because he considered me in all ways. He considered me in the house, in the city, and really thought about the girls, and we got to make sure they're in a good school system. We want them to have a great high school experience. Ashanti is slowly coming around and slowly getting on board with the idea. I'm thankful for that. I'll tell you that much. A full circle moment last night. I showered in that shower for the last time. I cooked plenty of meals at that house, and we went to sleep. We woke up, and we hopped in the car. We took a picture. It is a full circle moment, and we're on to the next chapter. So I'm going to be giving you guys some great episodes, with this liveliness of the children I've given birth to. I'm so grateful and thankful that Angelique is an hour and a half away, 2 hours away. She's in Abilene, and I'm so grateful that also I get to see her tomorrow. She gets to come and see the house, and her and Curtis. I'm so thankful for them, and just thankful that my husband thought about all that, and took being in Texas, he was okay with it. I love you guys for being on this journey with me, and it is 4:06 a.m. Y'all let me talk for a good hour and a half. I'm going to slice this up and cut it up and get rid of some shit that should not be in there. Excuse my language, but I've been cussing. And look, I love the Lord. Every time I cuss, Ashanti eats like 50 cents. We got a cuss jar for me. However, I will say this girl has eaten some really good Cold Stone meals because of my cousin. But I'm forever a work in progress, and I love the Lord all day, every day. So we'll work on it. I just need coffee. I need coffee and a hash brown. So God is good. But I want to bid you all adieu. I love you with the love of God, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I always said I was going to talk about how I met Ken and what that looked like, and I probably will. You know what? I probably shouldn't end it. Well, yeah, I'll end it, because I was going to say, I'll tell you guys what I prayed for. But you know what? Just the good core things. Good characteristics, great quality characteristics that make for a great human being, a God-fearing man. So my reference was the Bible. I utilized that. I wanted a man to be submissive to God and to pray. I asked for a praying man. My husband prays 3 times a day. And yeah, gotta love him. God did his big one with my husband, and I prayed for a good man, and God delivered 10. And I just am so thankful for the experience. I've never traveled as much as I did. Well, I've never really a traveling type of gal. I've traveled as much with Ken because he likes to travel, and I did that. I've been so many places and did things that I never would do, and I waited on this man. And we've been married since 2023, but we've been together since 2020, so full 5 years, and married for 2 years, 2.5 years, and we've never lived together as husband and wife. So that journey in itself is about to be insanely good. Listen, I was with someone who didn't treasure me, who wasn't grateful for who I was and what I could bring to their life as a woman. And that experience needed to happen because I needed to have my daughter go to school. And I'm grateful that didn't work out because it wasn't supposed to. So I'm with the man that God has me with, and I value him and grateful and thankful for him in every single way, because I think when you have a dad, a good father, your father's goal is to, and my father would always say to me,
I don't think anybody is good enough for you. I just don't. But growing up, I didn't get it and I didn't understand it. But now that I have daughters, I clearly get it and understand what my dad was trying to say to me. And what he meant was, I don't think anybody is good enough for you because I love you. And can't nobody love you like I love you. Of course, you're my parent. I know there's a man out there that can come close and can be good to you and can treat you the way that I would treat you. And Ken does that. Like, he truly does embody. My father loved polo. My father loved Ralph Lauren. And all Ken wears is Ralph Lauren. He wears polo, Ralph Lauren. He don't wear nothing else. And Jordans, of course. But even like his dress shoes, polo, Ralph Lauren. He reminds me so much of my dad. He's so stoic and quiet, and when he does talk, he has something of value to say. And my dad was a great storyteller. You know, when Ken does open up and he tells me stories about, you know, being in the Army and certain things, I listen intently because I'm like, oh, great, finally you're talking. Go. You know, because he rarely does. But as time has gone on and he's trusted me with certain stories, and he's told me certain things, I hold that near and dear because, you know, I love it when he talks. And he gives great advice. He does. He's like a wealth of knowledge, and he's experienced so much stuff in his life. And not to mention, he's just a great steward of all his responsibilities. My father was a great steward of his money, you know, and Ken is a great saver. And he's just an awesome husband. He's an awesome good guy. And God did his big one with that. So I'm forever grateful. So again, I bid y'all adieu. And there's something clicking in the back. I guess when I stop or whatever. But I love you all with the love of God. And thank you guys for being on this journey with me, the full circle. We've come full circle, me and my husband. And we are finally living together as husband and wife under the same roof. We're no longer married apart, and that puts a smile on my heart and my face. I love you guys, and I bid you adieu, and bye.